Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we're joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty advisor, and we have been talking for years about bankster manipulation. In fact, I think it was just last week we were talking about Deutsche Bank's gold and silver manipulation, and we mentioned JP Morgan. Well, now JP Morgan is in trouble again, and this just broke seconds before I started this video, so excuse the fact that it's kind of impromptu, but this is really interesting news out of Zero Hedge. As the article says, it says JP Morgan to pay record $1 billion settlement over precious metals treasury manipulation. And of course, JP Morgan has paid settlements before and traders have gone to jail over this, but I mean, $1 billion, what do they get that from, like the bailout fund? We're going to get into this article and more today and explain what this means. Of course, we are joined by Tim Picciott, who is a certified financial planner, and you could become a client of his at www.thelibertyadvisor.com. Anyway, make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning, and of course check ways that you can fund as $1, $2 a month pledges, GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. Makes a huge difference as we are completely demonetized by YouTube and we depend on the viewer. We are viewer funded 100% to continue to bring this information to the masses, which is extremely important. Of course, we are also on other social media networks like flote.app, flote.app, as well as LBRY, BitChute, and Minds, and we are posting our videos exclusively on those platforms after November 5th, only showing trailers to our videos on YouTube, directing people over there because YouTube's about to take us down, so we have no choice. You can also join our newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Makes a huge difference if you join that. Just takes 2 seconds to put in your email. And of course, last but not least, you can get the PFT Privacy Protector linked below if you want to keep your privacy safe with a fair day from the government on your phone, as well as keep your testes safe from radiation. Make sure to check that link below. Anyway, let's get into this article. As it says, JP Morgan to pay record $1 billion settlement over precious metals treasury manipulation. And as the article goes into, last week we reported that as Deutsche Bank's infamous gold manipulator and spoofer and currently star witness for the prosecution in a massive case targeting precious metal manipulation, David Liu, admitted spoofing was so commonplace, I figured it was okay. Well, it wasn't okay, but since everyone else was doing it, we can see why Liu was confused. And speaking of everyone else also manipulating and spoofing gold, we go from Deutsche Bank straight to JP Morgan, which according to Bloomberg is set to pay a record $1 billion settlement to resolve market manipulation investigations by US authorities into its trading of metals, futures, and treasury securities. And as it says, a penalty approaching $1 billion would far exceed previous spoofing-related fines. It would also be on par with sanctions in many prior manipulation cases, including some brought several years ago against banks for allegedly rigging benchmark interest rates and foreign exchange markets. And I should point out for a moment there that also with the Deutsche Bank gold and silver manipulation case years ago, as we reported as it happened, I believe in 2016, it also involved a whole bunch of other banks like HSBC, Goldman Sachs, Scotiabank, BNP Paribas. The list goes on and on. These banks this is like commonplace, as mentioned in our previous video, when it comes to banker manipulation. It happens all the time, and don't think governments aren't doing it either. Carrying on in this article, it says, the settlement amount, the highest in history of its kind, may be announced as soon as this week, said anonymous Bloomberg sources. Its payment would also end probes by the DOJ, CFTC, and SEC into whether traders on JP Morgan's precious metals and treasuries desks rigged markets. Of course they did. Which, of course, they did, as it says in the article here. In fact, a cynical take would suggest that JP Morgan is merely paying a kickback to the various regulators for the mistake of having been caught rigging various markets. And you can see a tweet by Planet Ponzi directed at Max Kaiser that says, JP Morgan pays a kickback, aka bribe, to CFTC for manipulation of gold and silver prices. No regulation. JP Morgan's metals manipulation profits were likely much more than $1 billion. We have zero regulation. Max Kaiser, remember this? Think they stopped? And of course, our friend Max Kaiser is tagged in there. And as it continues, it says, and since JP Morgan is about to pay a small fraction of the profits it made from manipulating gold and rates markets, said rigging and manipulation with tremendous IRR will resume shortly. Only this time, JP Morgan's traders will be far more careful not to get caught, which in retrospect was their only crime. According to the report, it's unclear if the largest U.S. commercial bank will face additional DOJ penalties. And as it says here, previous spoofing cases have been resolved without banks or traders trading firms pleading guilty to criminal charges. However, when prosecutors filed cases last year against individual JP Morgan traders, they painted a grave picture of its previous metals desks, saying it operated as an illicit enterprise within the bank for almost a decade. What we do know is that once JP Morgan pays the fee, which it may well have funded from one of the numerous bank bailout schemes unleashed by the Fed in recent months, the government settlement with JP Morgan is not expected to result in any restrictions on its business's practice. Of course, they'd look at it differently if it was any small business, but of course, small businesses aren't bouncing the price of gold and silver up and down like crazy, like JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank are. And again, they've been caught red-handed. This isn't some kind of slander. It's a fact. And are we surprised? I mean, gold and silver is meant as wealth insurance, not really an investment in my opinion. But hey, if you want to invest in it, let's just rig the market so that we can make more money fast and screw over everyone that's trying to, prep for the future. Tim, let's talk about this. As we've talked about before, what do you think about this recent settlement by JP Morgan and like what it really means for the manipulation, the vast manipulation we're seeing by the banks as well as the Federal Reserve?
Well, I mean, it reminds me when Eric Holder, when they were, when HSBC was allegedly funneling money from the Sinaloa drug cartel, that Eric Holder said that HSBC was too big to jail. And so, and what's even bigger than HSBC? That would be JP Morgan. I mean, JP Morgan was instrumental in the creation of the whole Federal Reserve System. That's why it was JP Morgan's Island on Jekyll Island, which you guys can join Gio or Griffin at the Red Pill Expo by going to redpillexpo.org. It's actually going to be October 10th and 11th, so it's coming up really quick here. Sort of a last second thing that he's putting together down there, so really recommend people check that out. But JP Morgan is at the heart of basically this entire system of how all this has been created. So I hate, when I see guys like Jamie Dimon come out and say that he's trying to battle income inequality when, they're the main harbingers of this. But, it just seems like it's the cost of doing business. A lot of times the regulators are guys who worked at these former banks. I'm not sure who the CFTC head is right now, but at one point I believe it was Gary Gensler, who was the, a former, I believe, Goldman Sachs guy. And so here he is and having to then regulate like his bosses, which is why I think guys like John Corzine over MF Global, former Goldman Sachs CEO and former senator, not sure which one's more powerful, but, probably the Goldman Sachs CEO-ship's probably more powerful than being a senator from New Jersey. But he ended up not getting perp walked. Nothing really even happened to him, even though he stole client. And actually, Gerald Celente was actually caught up in that, where he had some of his, money stolen as a result of that. But, nothing happens because the people who are, in charge of, regulating all this, it's a fox guarding the hen house always. And that's why I can't understand why these fake liberals can't ever figure this out when they want bigger government and they want more oversight, they want more regulations. It's the people who are doing this are the ones who are, in many times, are the ones who are, in charge of, the oversight of this. That's why you have, all the, hundreds of thousands of children that go missing, in CPS, because the pedophiles are the ones who are in charge of CPS. It's, but, not to digress in that, not,
But I mean, JP Morgan is not only one of the biggest market manipulators or one of the biggest MVPs of market manipulation out of all the banks, but also they're one of the biggest MVPs on running cocaine. I mean, they got caught with one of the biggest coke busts in history, I believe, last year, which
I think that was tied to like Mitch McConnell. I think that was actually also tied to like Mitch McConnell's like father-in-law or something.
Man, that guy does a lot of coke. What was that, $1 billion, 10 billion? It's some like ridiculous amount of cocaine. But
it was somehow tied to the McConnell family, which, who knows, maybe it's either going to be McConnell or Pelosi as president as they're trying to, figure out who actually wins after this, what show that's about to go down.
Well, it makes sense though, Tim, because I mean, money and cocaine do the same thing to people as far as psychologically to their brain. It's the same kind of addiction to people that feel like people like Bill Gates have more than enough money. And I'm sure at this point they're done with the money. They're just trying to get power, more and more power. They obviously were hurt as kids and they want to have as much power as they can over other people. I feel like this is very similar in the sense as people get addicted to money to the point where even if they were once a good person, and they can still be a good person and be extremely rich. Of course, there's a lot of great rich people out there, but it is an addiction and you want more and more and more and more. You can't bring it to the grave. Well, Well, cocaine is similar in the sense where you're not necessarily addicted on an off day, but once you start doing it, you want more and more and more. And then next thing you know, it's 12 p.m. You're on a bus and you're sweating in a hoodie looking for cocaine. I have no experience with this. I'm just saying. But the point is, I mean, it is like it's a psychological issue that a lot of people have. And we see these guys at JP Morgan, they've got more money than God at this point. And I don't mean that in a blasphemous way. I mean, they literally are creating money and they are going around looking for new ways to make more money fast, including in the gold markets when they're already rigging everything else. I mean, they have to pick on the gold and the silver. And we've seen, you know, as far as prepping, gold and silver is a great, thing to be involved in. And these guys have made 2012, especially to today, like a huge headache. But of course, you are a certified financial planner, and people can become a client of yours at thelibertyadvisor.com. Talk a little bit about how you work with gold and silver.
Well, we have clients, who have self-directed IRAs where they can, essentially at that point almost do anything. I say almost, there's only a few things that you can't do. And so we have clients who do have physical gold and silver, who have gold mining stocks, who have actual crypto where they hold on to the private keys. Now to do that, we're probably looking at, someone that has, closer to like $250,000 or $500,000 before we're, kind of from a compliance, angle and just the time it takes to set that up, do something like that. But, we are able to help, get people in a better position to, as wealth insurance, not that it's actual insurance, but, basically they're playing for broke. We've done other videos recently talking about the Federal Reserve digital dollar and how that's, basically, on its way here. Personally think that, this is my, prognostication. No, it's going to, bear out like this, but, I think that we're not going to know who won the election, and it's going to take, they're already prepping that on both sides of the aisle. And then that turmoil is going to create, probably a lot of, adversity in the stock market and a lot of financial assets, and, getting, yourself protected and, ahead of time is, something that's wise to do. So I'd rather work with you now. And, when you've got more money than, 3 months from now when, who knows what's going to go on. And so we have different strategies where, essentially, past performance, no indication of future returns. But, we did get almost all the gains in 2019 and almost none of the losses, at least, this year in, March and April when things were really far down and people didn't know what was going on. Our clients were protected from that. So if you guys go to the website, thelibertyadvisor.com, upper right-hand corner says work with Tim, drop down, click the button, and then you can actually schedule yourself. And I would do so, as soon as possible because, we're coming up here really quickly on the election. There's probably going to be some October surprises. We're already coming off one of the worst Septembers basically we've ever had, September being, historically one of the worst months. So, now is not the time to, be super risky in my opinion on that.
Well, it's interesting because 91 years ago, Tim, in September of 1929, there were a lot of tremors in the stock market. And we know, of course, again, this doesn't equal, this is going to happen this year. But I mean, the point is in September 1929, there were a lot of tremors, and then October happened, and then everyone got the rug pulled out from under them and everyone lost everything. So, I mean, obviously.
And we did see an initial bounce. We saw an initial, cataclysmic, sell-off. Then the market came right back up, just kind of like it's very, it's tracking very similar how we saw the market go right back up to all-time highs after brushing off, the worst basically data we've ever seen from an economic perspective. But it is tracking it pretty closely.
Well, I got some homework for everyone. If you want to look up old newspaper archives and search up stock market in newspapers right before the crash of 1929, I spent one time about 2 days just reading countless newspapers from around the US and internationally regarding stock markets and keyword searching stock markets in the newspaper for the year of 1929 leading up to October when the crash happened. And it's really interesting and really gives you a lot of perspective because it sounds very similar to what we're hearing today out of the bulls, the market bulls. But anyway, again, that doesn't mean that's going to happen this time. But again, how can it not when we're looking at the unemployment rate skyrocketing with this lockdown? They're going to do more lockdowns. 100%. I'm 100% positive of that. And of course, the amount of homelessness and poverty and the small businesses going under, it makes no sense for the stock market to be bullish in that scenario. But anyway, we'll get into that and more later. But again, I really appreciate everyone joining us today. We got lots more videos on the way. Make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning. Join our newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Of course, we are completely viewer funded, as I mentioned. So check out GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. Of course, we have a Teespring store where you could buy buy t-shirts. We have Bitcoin addresses, all sorts of stuff, Cointree addresses with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies you can donate in. They're linked below as well. And of course, we are on Flote.app, BitChute, LBRY, and Minds. I highly recommend you go subscribe over there. It takes people like you guys moving over there for us to survive and continue to bring information to people in the future. The truth that is being restricted at a bigger scale than we've seen in recent history. And of course, we are leaving YouTube November 5th of 2020. Remember the 5th of November. We will be gone after November 5th, only posting trailers on YouTube to our full videos on the other sites. So we really hope you join us, because it's that or we're going to be taken down by YouTube. We don't have a choice in this, and we really need the support of people who believe in the truth, believe in freedom, to come and join us over there. Of course, you can also get the PFT Privacy Protector, which is linked below as well. Keep your testes safe from radiation and keep yourself safe from the watchful eye of the state. Tim likes that one. He likes me bringing up testes. I don't know what that's about, but
I was gonna make a joke like, otherwise you're nuts if you don't have it. So
it's terrible. Well, anyway, I apologize for that. You can go and get that PFT Privacy Protector linked below the video. We really appreciate people not only making sure that they keep themselves safe, but also with doing that, we have an affiliate and it helps us too. It keeps us alive and allows us to keep bringing this information to you guys, to rat out all these snakes in the shadows. So I really appreciate everyone joining us today. And again, thanks for joining us, Tim. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on Flote.app, Flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites, because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.